welcome to another episode of Earning the Hate. Hi, gun people. Well, Newark police indicted fatal shooting of fleeing driver. I might have done a video on this. I don't remember. It's funny how the DA is saying what this guy did. Oh, did I mention the guy that he killed was black and he's white? Or he's not black? I think that's more of a better appropriate. The white word kind of gets people triggered. You can't say that unless you're saying bad things. But anyway, I digress. So this guy, I see cases every day where I think cops ought to be charged. This guy, I mean, I don't know what happened before, but it appears pretty reckless. Like I said, I don't know if I did a video on this before. I don't know what I said, but chasing a car without being able to see inside it seems to be the main point why the DA is so... The DA is black too, by the way. But the main reason that he's upset, or saying he's upset, is because the windows were tinted and the cops couldn't see who they were shooting. I see them saying you can't have tinted windows anymore because cops need to be able to see who they're shooting. But that's just crazy. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so here's what they're saying happened on this case, and we'll watch the video of the news here. But a Newark police officer has been indicted in connection with the incident on January of two men. They didn't say teens, so they probably weren't in their teens. Two men fleeing were shot, one fatally. Grand jury charged 26-year-old Jovanny Crespo with 6 counts of aggravated manslaughter, aggravated assault, and official misconduct. So it sounds like they charged him with 6 counts because each person in the car, there was 2 people. He got 2 counts of aggravated manslaughter on both of them, 2 counts of aggravated assault on both of them, and 2 counts of official misconduct. They're stacking charges, but whatever. I mean, this 26-year-old cop who got hired, who has been programmed that he doesn't have to abide by the law, he doesn't have to follow his training, he's got limited immunity, and he can go out there and just be a tyrannical cop. He gets to be the sacrificial lamb, even though we have cops doing this every day in every city and they're not getting charged. That's the problem. There's no equity in the charging. It is pick and choose, and normally it's picking when a black man gets killed because only Black Lives Matter, then we charge. Okay, on January 28th, so Andrew and Mr. Griffin here, Dr. Griffin, I'm sorry, were stopped by an officer in the area of Clinton Ave. When the officer tried to ask Griffin, he pulled away, according to the county prosecutor. He said their investigation revealed there was a handgun in the car. Now, I don't know whether these guys saw the car, whether they reached for the gun, whether they saw the gun, whether they knew it was a gun, whether they communicated to other officers. Maybe the officer that was shooting, the only one saw the gun. You still can't shoot people just because they have a gun. Could have been a legal gun. Could have worked as a security guard. Could have been an off-duty cop. Could have been an undercover cop. Didn't want to... I mean, there's a bunch of reasons on why somebody might have a gun, but in the cop's mind nowadays, pesky citizens are the enemy. Only us blue line heroes can have guns, and we must shoot everybody that doesn't. So this guy's going to go to prison for his life, and I'm okay with that. A number of police cars gave chase. All 3 separate locations, Crespo fired shots into the car. Both men in the car were shot in the head. Griffin died. Dixon survived, but was seriously injured. Prosecutors, he showed reckless disregard for human life. I say that in just about every video I do on cops earning the hate. They show reckless disregard. That female New York cop that just fired into traffic, emptied her gun with a backstop of 50 cars, showed total disregard for human life by shooting into traffic. She wasn't charged. She was shooting at a white man. Does that matter? I don't know. I mean, you know, this DA wants to say we always go where the facts take us. I take no pleasure in making this mouth. Why not? You should take pleasure in getting dirty, unaccountable cops off the street. Why don't you take pleasure in that, Mr. DA? But this case, as in every case, we must go where the facts and evidence take us. The officer was taken in custody, will place detention hearing. If convicted of all charge, he faces life in prison. Now, I'm not in favor of sending a guy to prison just because he's a cop, and there's a lot of bad cops doing a lot of bad things. I don't take pleasure in taking a guy who doesn't deserve to go to prison in prison. No more than a black guy who's smoking marijuana shouldn't go to prison for the rest of his life because he has a lot of marijuana. I mean, look, it's just bullshit. When you're taking away someone's life and liberty for their life, it ought to be worth it. He killed a guy. The guy sounds like he had a gun. I don't know what the guy's criminal history is. Funny how the paper didn't say that. We don't know what these two guys criminal. We don't know how many times they were arrested. We don't know whether they were engaged in drug trafficking. All we know is we got a white cop indicted because he shot a black man. That's where I think we have a failure of justice. Let's look at the tape. Oh, I said look at the tape, and then I'm going to have the millennials come here. Man, they don't use tape. That's old school. It's all digital now, and you can't be saying tape. You're old. Shut up, you freaking crybabies. We're watching a video. Here we go.
Terrifying police chase through the streets of Newark. Gunfire all along the way.
Terrifying. Terrifying why? Because two guys in a car ran, or because 6 taxpayer-paid cops chased them through the city and were shooting at them? That's why it was terrifying.
Now, a Newark cop indicted in the fatal shooting of a man who was in that car. Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan live in Newark with the shooting and the charges. Jim.
Newark police officer Jovanny Crespo was trying to stop a car that was speeding away from police. Another officer had seen 2 men and a gun in that car.
So he said another officer saw 2 men and a gun and they ran. And that was enough for this cop to run around like a maniac and fire rounds. I mean, he didn't know who was in the car. He didn't know if the kid was in the back seat. But again, I see this every day in shootings that I do. Go look at the playlist, Earning the Hate. These cops are out here breaking the law, showing total disregard for public safety, and they're never charged. This guy's charged because it was a black suspect and he wasn't black. It's just BS.
Already. All of the madness that followed here in Newark was caught on camera. It was a harrowing and chaotic police chase.
Chaotic. Oh my God, let's get some drama in here.
Through Newark, frantic from the first moment. And then
Shots fired! Shots fired!
So when officers put out shots fired like this, other officers coming don't know whether the suspect fired or the cop fired. So when they're coming, if other officers end up shooting this guy, it's because he yelled cop shots fired on there. Just like that female New York officer that said the guy rear-ended her when she passed him and slammed on her brakes and cut him off. And she just puts on the radio, he rear-ended me. She didn't put on there that she got in front of him slammed on the brakes. So that gives a mindset of other officers. To me, this is a start of a conspiracy or endangerment of the public because we're putting out bad information to responding officers. That ought to be a crime. It's BS.
Newark police officer firing his gun at 2 men while running alongside their...
What's he going to say? I thought he was going to run me over. I thought he tried to ram this police car, so I was protecting the officer. I was in fear of my life. I was in fear of the other officer's life. The way he was driving, he could have hit one of the pesky citizens that pay my salary. I was trying to protect and serve. Yeah, okay. Well, tell your story to your brothers in jail when you get life in prison.
Car. Moments later at a second location. You hear that same officer fire again at the same 2 men. And again.
Stop the car!
A third time, more gunfire from the same officer.
Get out the car!
Get out of the car. He shot both guys in the head. Get out of the car. Well, when I told them to get out of the car, they didn't comply with my instructions, so I thought they were going for a gun, so I shot them again. Oh, that's all right. It's justified. Officer safety. Fear for your life. All you guys are heroes. It's not. Oh, I'm sorry. It was a black victim? Oh, hell no. You're going to prison.
Both men inside that car were hit. One would die from his injuries, and that was clear from the beginning.
I shot him in the head.
And so a state investigation began.
We must go where the law, the facts, and the evidence take us.
We have a black prosecutor in order to push the narrative that white cops are out there just shooting black people for no reason. This isn't a white or black or color thing. This is a non-accountability of government. This is cops are being tyrannical and no DAs prosecute them fairly or equally. This is a specific case because of color. And I hate color charges. I don't like it if they're going after a black guy because he's black or if they're going after a white guy because he's white. Color charging defeats the purpose of fair and equitable law.
That evidence took them to this Newark police officer, Jovanny Crespo, just 26 years old. He was indicted by a grand jury today on charges of aggravated manslaughter and official misconduct. On that night, he seemed almost boastful.
I shot both of them.
And then later,
You hit me?
I shot both.
This is why I tell you pesky citizens to keep your mouth shut. This cop doesn't even know when to keep his mouth shut. He's running around saying this. And guess what? They're going to use it against him. They're going to say it was bragging, even though I think he's releasing stress. He just had a fight or flight situation. He's running. His heart rate is up. He just fired a gun. Somebody may have died, and he's trying to justify it in his mind, and he's just articulating things, just trying to deal with the situation. I don't think he's necessarily bragging. He could have been. I don't think he was, but doesn't matter. It's how the jury perceives it when they find him guilty and send him to prison for life.
he did, and one of those two men died. And the prosecutor says it was a crime.
It is the state's position that this officer's
It's not the state's
conduct.
position. It's a selective DA over colors position. If it was a state's position, we would see a whole bunch more cops being charged of all colors of victims. But we don't. That's the problem why nobody thinks the law applies to anybody, and it's all bullshit. And the end is coming soon because people are getting fed up of this discretionary charging of just certain colors when it's against certain colors. Meanwhile, you have the knockout game, you have high crime, you have this black on black crimes out of control, and nobody gets charged. They're letting people go.
That night was criminal. He showed a reckless disregard.
This is key wording. Reckless disregard for the safety of others. How many times have I pointed that out in videos? Case in point, the New York cop, I'll put a link at the end of this video, it'll be up here or down here, of the New York cop that chased and endangered everybody on the highway because a guy was speeding, and then empties her gun with a backdrop of 50 cars, not knowing whether there's kids in those cars, not knowing who's in those cars, showing a reckless disregard for everybody on the highway. Exactly what this guy did. But she's a woman, so she's a protected class, and we can't charge her. And she shot a white man, so it doesn't matter. It's just bullshit.
For human life by shooting into a moving vehicle.
Shooting at a moving vehicle is a total disregard for life. We see cops shooting at moving vehicles every day, and nobody's getting charged. Here, for some reason, color, it's a problem.
A vehicle which had heavily tinted
Now we have
windows.
tinted windows. Now I agree with this. Cops are shooting. They don't care about their backstop. They don't care if they miss. They don't care about if they injure other people because they know they can't be sued. They're not going to be held accountable. And crooked DAs aren't going to charge them unless it's a color thing.
Tinted windows. Crucial in police shootings is what the officer was trained to do. The prosecutor says you don't fire a gun into a car you can't see into.
Really? How many times have we seen cops firing into houses, firing in and moving away cars, firing in and literally killing a kid in the back seat because they're shooting? How many cars got shut up in the UPS when they surrounded it and fired over 200 rounds? I mean, this is just the... I don't have a problem. People come here, man, you're just protecting him because he's code blue. I don't have a problem with him getting charged. I just want every dirty cop to get charged, not just the white cops that shoot black guys. And that's the trend that we see.
Stop the car!
Officer's conduct was not consistent with the training.
You don't hear this a lot, but I say it a lot because cops are always acting with inconsistent or training. And you know what pesky ignorant citizens say? Oh, the cop needs more training. They don't need more training. They need to be held accountable for the training they have, just like this cop is. This DA is saying all the right words, and he's doing the right thing. He's just doing it for the wrong reason. Color.
Get out the car!
This all happened back in January. The grand jury finished its work today, handing up indictments for aggravated manslaughter, aggravated assault, possession of a deadly weapon for an unlawful purpose.
That is a pretty good charge to stick in here. You giving cops guns and they use guns to commit crimes, and now they're actually charging this cop with the same gun crimes they caused everybody else. See, the pesky citizen, if you go out there and defend yourself, they will charge you with using a gun if they can figure out a crime. And now this cop is getting charged with using a gun to commit his crime. Nice. Nice. I'd like to see this as a trend. I used to didn't like this because cops were required to carry guns and they were required to go into dangerous situations, and we were supposed to protect and serve, and it wasn't fair to force them into a situation where they have to use a gun and then charge them with using the gun. So I used to be against this. But now, since the Supreme Court said cops have no duty to act and they get to choose when they act, anytime a cop goes out there and uses his gun, he's making a choice. His other choice could have walked away. He could have chose not to ask. He can always choose not to shoot. And since he has that choice now, then he should be held accountable.
Possession of a deadly weapon for an unlawful purpose and official misconduct.
Good.
Officer
I think I'll put this in Earning Hate also. All right, we'll end that there. Y'all have a good one.